Do you currently have a job that you've just been crushing it at? I'm talking like, Walmart attendant, okay, doctor. I'm talking like you're changing oil for a living. You're just like crushing it every day in your own mind. You just love your job, but it's not paying you enough. Well, there's a lot of people like that. I know I was like that. And today's guest is no different. He had a job. He's a very specialized type of job, a physical therapist. And he was able to take things to the next level, transition, and really just crush it in real estate. So I'm super excited. Don't go anywhere, and because we're going to dive in and learn all about his story and how you guys can crush it too. The big question is this: how do we as real estate investors find the deals that bring the greatest returns, allowing us to make the biggest impact for good in the world and live a mighty life? You are listening to the Mighty Real Estate Investor Podcast, and I am your host, Mighty Mike.
This is Lee Yoder, and you're listening to the Mighty Real Estate Investor Podcast. Let's go.
Love it. Welcome, Lee.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here. Love the intro, man.
Man, I'm loving this, just having as much fun as I can, podcasting, meeting people that are just crushing it in real estate and in life. Guys, I put a little thing down there. You are the visionary behind Threefold Real Estate Investing and the host of the weekly podcast, which is amazing, by the way. Definitely go check it out. Love it. So why don't we dive in right away? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, get acclimated, and what got you started in real estate investing?
Yeah, sure, Mike. Great question. So I was like you said there in the intro, I'm a trained physical therapist. Was doing that, had a good job. Great for the family. My wife and I were starting our family, had young kids at home. So that was really good, but I was just really bored. It was not a challenging or fulfilling job. So actually the company I was with ended up bringing me in the office. I was a clinical director. Pretty soon I was doing no physical therapy. I was in the office. It was a startup company. So I was helping build a division within the startup company, and I was loving that work. So kind of realized, hey, I'm not really passionate about physical therapy. I'm passionate about building a business. I was very entrepreneurial in that role with that company, doing director of operations type stuff, very numbers driven, which I love. So really enjoying that work. The problem with that was, as is often the case with kind of just climbing the corporate ladder, just wasn't great for the home life. At work a lot, and them constantly asking for more time. And I was moving toward a promotion into a director of operations role. And it was like, yeah, Lee, we're going to need you here more. You're going to have to be here later in the evening. You have to be here on weekends, stuff like that. And that was a line in the sand for me, Mike. I just, as much as I enjoyed the work, I'm like, it's not worth it to me to do all that. I want to be home. I work so that I can have a great life with my family. We're faith-driven people. I want to be the best Christ follower that I can be, which means, putting my time into some other things as well. It's not all about work. But I really enjoy my work. So I didn't really want to go back to just doing home health physical therapy because, again, while that was a great job for my family, it was not fulfilling for me. So I could only do that so long. Whatever job I'm doing, I'm going to put a lot of time into it, a lot of effort. It's got to be something that's somewhat fulfilling, somewhat challenging. So kind of looking for what else is out there. And somebody turned me on to real estate. Now my dad's in construction, so kind of spoke to me very quickly anyway. But I started reading some books, obviously read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like so many people do, changed my mindset, and started to think okay, there's a different path out there. I have more options than what I was raised to believe I have. So I thought, all right, what if I leave this busy corporate job? I go back to home health physical therapy, which lots of flexibility, lots of margin, not, challenging, stressful, or anything like that, not fulfilling, but then I add real estate as a side hustle. And so that's what I did. I left that corporate job, took about a 30% pay cut, went back to home health physical therapy, and started a real estate side hustle. I didn't really get it going until 2017. And I started with just a single family flip, which is how a lot of people get started, but it got me started. I got going, and, now we syndicate apartments, but that's how I got into real estate.
That's so cool. Finding out, you're in the moment, and so many people that watch the show and people on my Instagram send me messages are like, this is what I'm doing, but how can I get started? And it's well, you just get started while you're doing what you're doing already. Sure. By learning. And so that's really cool. And it sounds like you already had some mentors a little bit in the real estate space.
Yeah, a little bit. Now, I'll tell you, Mike, though, not enough. And that's one thing, a lot of times people ask, like, what would you do differently? Or what would you advise somebody that's just getting started? It's more networking. I wish I would have done that earlier, because I did end up getting, some good mentors that really helped me. And I wish I'd had them even earlier. But yeah, my dad was in construction. I knew a little about that, but I didn't know really any investors. So I wish I would have done more networking.
Yeah, it's a totally different mindset too. It's like, when you're in construction and that kind of stuff, you do learn a lot about business, I guess, but in the way that it's passive, creating wealth. And eventually it's not just passive. It actually is passive, because you're just using your money, putting it into other deals.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So really good stuff. So you talked a little bit about your first deal. Let's one of the first questions I'd like to ask is either diving into the first deal or the transition from the first deal to multifamily. Seems like we might get more out of that. So what made you dive into multifamily, and how did you make that transition?
Yeah, good question, Mike. So I did a single family flip, and then I basically flipped a duplex. With the duplex, we rented it out for a little bit. So got to see, because flipping is not investing. It's fine if you want to get in that, but it's not investing. It's just a different job. We totally saw that with just doing one. With the duplex, we had it rented, and we saw some of that passive income, that residual income. Like, okay, it's not a lot, but as long as we own this and we can keep it full, we're going to make money for the rest of our lives, as long as we own it. So we saw that. But Mike, just listening to podcasts like this one, listening to the guests that come on, one thing I kept hearing was, man, if I could go back, tell my younger self, I would go bigger, faster, because there's a lot of benefits in owning more units under one roof, or more units on one property. There's an economies of scale. It's easier to manage. You get better management. There's a bigger piece of the pie. You can split it up, things like that. There's a lot to like, and that spoke to me. So I just kind of knew that was where I wanted to go. But that's a big challenge. So when my wife and I started investing, we didn't know anybody really in our families that was entrepreneurial, that was investing in real estate, nothing. So it was all scary to us. But after the duplex, our next deal, our third deal, was a 16 unit apartment building. And it just seemed like climbing Mount Everest. I mean, it really seemed out of reach to us, because again, just nobody we really knew was doing things like this. That's why, again, Mike, you doing a podcast, it's so important, because people get to listen to it and hear people like me that, I have nothing over any of your listeners. I just decided to start like 5 years ago. And so I'm out where I'm at now, and that's it. So if people start today, in 5 years, they could very easily be where I'm at, because taking down a 16 unit just seems so out of reach. But, you mentioned having mentors, Mike, and I joined the local Cincinnati, where I'm at, the RIA, the Real Estate Investment Association. Right. And in that association, they had a guy leading an apartment focus group, talking all about buying apartment buildings. And this guy had went and done one of the coaching programs, went to the boot camps, and then he bought a couple apartment buildings. So I started learning from this guy, for free. He's running this for free. I started underwriting deals on LoopNet, sending them to him like, hey, here's all my underwriting, because he gave us the underwriting spreadsheet, and here's how you do it. We're going through this. So he became a great mentor for me, Mike. And, this 16 unit that I bought was on LoopNet. And I mean, people probably laugh at that. That's where people say deals go to die. And this one had gone to LoopNet to die. And since I had never done a deal, I felt like those are probably the deals I'm going to have a chance at, right? Because no broker has any reason to, take me seriously. So underwrote that deal, sent it to that mentor, and said, hey, here's what I'm thinking about offering. He said, that looks good. Your underwriting is good. You've done a good job. Let's offer on it, and kind of held my hand, Mike. And so that was a big piece of that, a huge part of that transition. I could not have done it without getting educated on underwriting. That's so big, and having that mentor with me. And then another piece of that, Mike, that I think is so important, I really advocate having a third-party management company. I think managing stuff yourself, especially if you want to go big pretty quickly. If you say, I'm just going to buy single families and duplex for 5 years and manage them myself, absolutely. And then by that time you're ready to take on a 16 unit, you can manage that yourself as well. I was more interested in scaling and buying bigger and bigger properties. So I wanted to have that partner. And that's the other thing, Mike, that gave me a lot of confidence in buying a 16 unit, because while for me, that seemed like climbing Mount Everest, like, wow, that's just so huge because it's so out of my reach. Like, it just seems crazy that we could do this. For my property management company, who was managing 1,200 units in this city, 16 units is nothing to them. So that gave me a lot of confidence in that. I don't know what I'm doing, but they're the ones managing it, not me, right? I've got to find the deal and put it together and get it under contract and bring in, an investor or two to take it down. now we have a lot more investors, but to take it down, but then they manage it, and I got to manage them and make sure they're doing their job. But they're the ones doing the data. They're the ones going out to introduce themselves to the residents and tell them who to pay and how to put in a maintenance request. I don't have to worry about all that. So having that mentor holding my hand a little bit and having a property management company, that's what gave me the confidence and allowed me to make a big jump into multifamily.
It's so powerful. So many people I talk to, they're like, well, the limiting beliefs. And even if they don't have limiting beliefs, it's like, well, what's my first step? And they're like so excited. Like I met a young lady at a meetup. Well, it was actually like a little mini conference for property managers. And she's just like beaming with excitement. And I'm like, and like, well, what do I do? And it's just like, and it was funny because like, I really was thinking like, well, and I don't coach, but like, I guess I coach people like friends and people that I know. Yeah. Like what to do. And I was like set back for a minute because I was like, I don't know you. So there's a million things that you could do better than someone else where it would change what you should do first. But the one thing is like, I was like, are you good with numbers? Can you underwrite deals? So what you're saying about like underwriting deals, guys that start doing a lot of deals, they get deals sent to them all day long and they don't have time to underwrite all of them. And so that was one of the first ways I got started. Also is like just underwriting deals for other people. I still do it to this day for free. I'll underwrite the deal. I send it to them because I want the equity in the deal. And being a commercial real estate broker, if it's in Florida, like, I can help with it in that way as well. So
cool. Yeah.
That's really powerful. Yeah. That's good. So kind of one of the first things kind of transitioning here is like, and a lot of people like to be humble on this one, but you can't be humble. That's the one rule with this question. Okay. All right. And it's okay to be humble, but not on this one. So when you go to some of these real estate events and mine, I'll tell you when people are telling about all their great, deals they did, I always say I sold a lot when they ask me. I've sold a lot, and it's literally, I don't know if you saw in other episodes, I sold a lot. Literally. It was like, quarter acre lot and
love it. Yeah.
But what is that story that you tell when you go into these real estate events or just like to your grandkids, when they're bragging about the deals that they're doing? Like what story would you tell? Like your biggest, greatest, the one you're most proud of deal?
Yeah, good question, Mike. I'll tell you, I'll just continue on the track that was on that we were just talking with the 16 unit. I'm really proud of that because it is your first deal was really hard. And so the flip was kind of our first deal, but the 16 unit was our first multifamily deal. And it was just a big hurdle for us. It was a mindset shift to believe that we could buy an apartment building. I mean, yes, it's only 16 units. When you think about an apartment building, sure, there are a lot more, but this was still a legitimate apartment building. It was a big deal to us. It was very scary. So to be able to actually overcome that was transformational for us and launched us into, what we're doing now. And, we bought a 96 unit in December. We're under contract for another one like that. And so, but it all started with that 16 unit, getting past that mindset. And then the other cool thing about that, Mike, is my wife comes from a very conservative background and her parents would never invest in anything. They have their house paid off and just a bunch of money just sitting in a savings account, losing out to inflation. Right. And so never in her wildest dreams would they invest with us. And they were like our first serious investor and they invested in that deal with us. So that gave her a lot of confidence that, oh my goodness, my parents are super conservative. They're deciding to invest. Like she could not believe her dad decided to do that. And what was really cool, Mike, is we already went full cycle on that deal and they made a lot of money too, which got me excited about apartment syndication so we could bring more people in because we did really well on that deal. So that was great, but somebody else got to do really well. And my in-laws who, I have reason to try to impress them a little bit. And so that was a great deal, transformational for us. And my in-laws got to get in on it and do really well as well, which was fun to see.
That is so cool. So let's dive into the numbers just a little bit, if you don't mind. A little rough numbers is fine. So like getting into a deal like that, did you have partners or did you guys put together the money?
Just those. So we just did a joint venture on that one, Mike. I mean, this won't, people will be shocked by this, but we bought 16 units for $350,000. That, you couldn't do that today. Right. Now there are 1 beds and studios, but still, and so we just needed $60,000 down. We bought, 20% down payment. We got funding through, local bank or credit union. I guess a bank, US bank, I think on that one. So we just needed 20% down, which was 60 grand. We brought another 40 to for reserves and for our CapEx budget. and I took 50%. I actually gave him, no, sorry, I took 55%. I gave that investor, so that my in-laws, they brought all that money, that $100,000.
Okay.
They got 35%. And then my mentor that I told you about, that was leading the apartment focus group, I gave him 10% because he helped me so much and I wanted him to stay on this deal. So he got 10%. So just a joint venture. And that's what's great about small multis, Mike, is, you can start pretty simple. You don't have to do a syndication, pay syndication attorneys. You just do it small. Now, technically everybody needs to have an active role, and they did. They were all out there during the inspection. They were all, doing different things. They came out in different parts, and everybody kind of had a role to play. You all have to be active if you want to do a joint venture. If you just want to bring passive investors, that's an apartment syndication. So somebody's running the deal and everybody else is passive. But yeah, just $100,000 from one partner. And then I basically did almost everything, and then had my mentor in on the deal. I got 55, money partner got 35, and then mentor got 10.
That's so powerful. And like the mindset too, for those of you guys that are listening that aren't in the real estate space, the mindset in the real estate investor space is like, collaboration is king. They say cash is king. No, cash is how you move things, but collaboration and networking, like you said in the very beginning, like networking sooner and faster. And it's the only reason I have a show. I get to meet folks like yourself, where you're in Ohio, where I probably otherwise would have never met you unless we're at a conference or something, right? So
right.
So powerful. So kind of transitioning here, like you got a lot of stuff going on, and there's so much knowledge, and we're going to get into the tips and tools after we hear from our sponsors. But tell us, what are you working on right now that you're most fired up about?
Yeah, I'll just continue with that thought, Mike, in that what I love about apartment syndication, and that for people that don't understand that, is just when you buy, like, so on that 16 unit, we only needed to raise $100,000. You can do that with one or two people. Now we're buying, close to 100 unit apartment buildings, and we're raising, $1.75 million. I don't know a couple people that can bring that amount of money. So we're bringing in, 30 investors, and they're all passive. And so it's just a large group investing together in an apartment building. That's what an apartment syndication is. And I love it, Mike, because, now I get to bring 30 people in and let them experience the power of multifamily investing. Cause I really believe in it. I think investing in apartment buildings is one of the greatest ways to not only receive passive income. We pay quarterly, and so you get cash flow. Okay. It's kind of like a dividend in a stock. You're making a really good cash flow. Usually apartment syndications will pay an 8% preferred return. Sometimes not quite that much. We try to hit 8, but so you're getting, 8% on your money at least, as you own the deal. And then, you're building equity because you're paying off the debt. The property, you should be increasing the value of the property. So, your equity is going up. So I'm just most excited, Mike, that we get to continue to do this with more people, bring in more people and let them experience the power of multifamily real estate. I love it.
That is so cool. So where can people go, like, if they want to invest with you guys?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about just multifamily in general, whether you do it with us or not, I do love talking about this, and I do put out some educational material. Just go to our website, threefoldrei.com. Yeah, Mike's putting it up there on the screen. We've got a free ebook there, 5 Steps to Passive Income for the Full-Time Dad. And it just gets into what I'm talking about, Mike. I'm really excited about. It's for moms too, but my partner and I are both dads. And so we kind of identify with dads that do want to make more money, but maybe don't want to take the promotion, maybe don't want to travel more, maybe don't want to work more. Hey, what we think is, like, put your money to work for you, and get a good return on that money. Again, we pay you today, we pay you quarterly. So maybe if you put some money to work for you, you can make enough extra to send your kid to private school or take the vacation you want to take, or maybe your wife can go part-time because you're putting your money to work for you instead of just trading more time for money. So yeah, we're trying to do more education about that. Check us out at the website. I'm also active on LinkedIn, so you can check out my name on LinkedIn.
Definitely. We're going to dive into all that. We're going to share all that at the end of the show too, and put it in the show notes. But guys, prepare yourself, because Lee has been dropping some crazy major value here, high level mindset stuff. And we're getting into the weeds a little bit. We're going to get into the tips, tools, and tactics right after a word from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. Mighty Nation, I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. I'm just breaking in really briefly to let you know about today's sponsor, Audible. They're offering to give my listeners 30-day free trial of their service. Audible has hundreds and hundreds of books. I have some of my favorite books listed up over here. You can go to mightyfreebook.com and get your 30-day free trial. You get a free book, And if after the 30 days are up, you decide you no longer want to be a part of it, you can actually cancel, no strings attached, and never have to pay anything and have a free, awesome book. Check out all these cool books over here. Go check out mightyfreebook.com. Let's dive back into the show. All right, Lee, welcome back to the show, man. Are you ready to do some mighty flexing?
Yeah, I'm ready, I think.
All right. So first question I love to ask, obviously the sponsor is Audible. What book would you recommend for somebody looking to get started, real estate or not?
One book I love, Mike, that really helped me was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Great book because I'll tell you, apartment syndication for sure, but in so many jobs and just even in life, often it takes a sustained effort where you seemingly see very little return on your investment, but it takes continuing with that and staying consistent for a long time to see any return. But what you're actually going to see is a huge return if you can do that. Apartments are the same way. If somebody's listening to this, Mike, and they say, I want to buy an apartment building, it may be 2 years before they buy an apartment building, because what it takes to buy an apartment building, to get yourself ready, to surround yourself with people, to educate yourself, to bring on, people ready to invest, to learn how to underwrite a deal and then find a deal and develop broker relationships, all this stuff. It could take you 2 years to do that. So during those 2 years, it could feel like you're making no progress, because how many units do you have after a year and a half? 0. But what if, at 24 months, you buy a 200 unit apartment building? Did you go from 0 to 200 units in one day? Because one day you had 0 units and the next day you closed on a 200 unit apartment building? No, it was really over those 2 years that you're building up all this momentum. And that's the compound effect, is that you're compounding all this, you're building up momentum. It kind of like compound interest works this way. It compounds on itself and suddenly you just take off. And then you're off to the races. As soon as you buy a 200 unit building, you're going to very quickly have the opportunity to buy more, because again, not because what you do between the 200 unit and the next time you buy 200 unit, it's because what you did in those first 2 years. So it's really important to keep that in mind. It can take a long time to see the result you want, but you are making progress. You got to stick with it. And you got to stick with it for a long time.
That's so powerful. I love a couple things. So I love the idea of giving concepts personified, like taking a concept like momentum and personifying like Big Mo. The book is really good about like personifying like the compound effect and actually putting in effort, whether you want to lose weight, whether you want to like be more mindful spiritually. I can remember a time being very hard-hearted and like laughing at somebody who was bearing their testimony, this kind of stuff. And it's just like we change over time, but only as we do it day by day by day. Yeah. And so I love that. 200 units. I feel like that could be a book title, like 200 units in a day, or something.
Yeah. Yep.
It started 2 years ago, and that's powerful. I like that.
Yep.
So definitely the compound effect is good. You can go get that at Audible, mightyfreebook.com. You guys can choose whatever book you want. That's one of my favorite books. What is your favorite tactic for finding real estate deals?
Mike, I really think brokers, for the most part, right now, at least, control the deals. I had a 10 unit apartment building that I was 6 months into renovating, and I got a call from, Marks and Millichap, who's big brokerage here in Cincinnati. And I felt like, man, if they're calling me on a 10 unit here in, this podunk town in Southwest Ohio, if they're putting that much money and effort and energy into finding a 10 unit to go out and sell, how am I going to compete with that, trying to go direct to sellers? So honestly, I think the brokers really control the deals. So I think you got to, work on your broker relationships, and you just try to get to the top of their list. So brokers don't always throw their property out on the market and try to get 30 bids and have a bidding war on it. Sometimes they just take it to their top 5 buyers for that type of property in that area and see if they can just get an offer and kind of keep it off market. So you need to get on that list of 5. Now, if you're just starting out, how can you do it? Well, you might have to take a lesser property. So there's some brokers that I don't know that well that I call and I say, look, I know I'm not high on your list, but if you've got something that's hard to sell because it's a weird property, it's in a bad location, or needs a lot of work, and call me. So you just need to work on getting high on a broker's list, on several brokers' lists.
I love that. So being one myself and being fairly new transitioning from residential, I can tell you that having that awareness just to start off with, you call me and you already have that awareness. Suddenly I'm like, well, maybe he should be at the top of my list if he's so
Sure.
willing to work with any deal, right?
Right.
If
Yep.
he's so
Yeah.
willing to. So there's so many like psychological factors that go into play there. But like, how would you, since we're talking about that, like, what would you do other than calling them? Is there anything else you would do to try to be at the top of the list, I guess?
Yeah, I think what a broker wants to hear, Mike, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I've just always said, of course, a broker wants to get as high of a price as they can for their seller. Obviously their commission goes up too. But I'll tell you, from my experience, the main thing a broker wants to know is that you're going to close for sure. So
Yes.
I think get all your ducks in a row. I mean, you need to
Yeah.
know, you need to be able to, you can't prove to them. The only way you can prove it to them is to do it, but you need to show
Yeah.
them that they should have confidence in you. And so know who your lenders are, know that you're going to be able to get financing, know that you have investors. Again, Mike, that's where like it really helps to bring on a partner. When I had, that 16 unit, I had my mentor again, like I told you, he had already bought a couple apartment buildings. So when I was talking to the broker, I kept saying, we have 100 units, right? Because me and my partner. So I think that is very helpful. So that when you call the broker, you can say, you don't have to say, hey, I'm looking for my first deal. You say, hey, we have 100 units. Now, they don't have to know that it's somebody that you're bringing on. They don't have to know that. And they may know that anyway. It actually doesn't matter. If that person is coming on with you and you're going to give them a piece of deal, then that's all true. You're not lying about anything. So
Right.
I think having a mentor to lean on again, because, I gave that guy 10% of my first deal. We went full cycle on it and he made $20,000. And I was so thrilled to be able to pay him that, because he launched me. But on my next one, Mike, I didn't have to give him any of the deal because I knew how to do it. But it's only because he helped me on that first one. So maybe you do that with somebody. But I think you just want to give that broker as much confidence as you can that you're actually going to close were they to award you a deal.
That's so powerful. Yeah, because the thing you have to do is put yourself in the broker's shoes, right? Like
Right.
and this goes with residential too. Like so many times
Sure.
I would have deals, very rarely would they ever fall apart, and it was always my fault. Like, of course, there's some issue, but it was my fault because I didn't make that extra phone call to the lender. I didn't make to verify and do that due diligence on a residential deal. And so you actually, if you don't close, if you don't verify, then the broker looks bad
Right.
because
Yes.
the seller's like, why did I list with you again? Like, dude, this
Yep.
was been on the market for like 3 months. What's going on? And so you want them to look like rock stars by closing right away,
Yep.
whatever the terms are, not going back and renegotiating. That's one thing in
Right.
residential you could do because it's families that are like, well, we can't afford to replace the roof. We got to pay
Yeah.
less. But when it comes to apartments, it's assumed that you're going to have to put some money in this deal so you can
Yes.
appreciate the asset. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm usually saying that, hey, when we come up with a rehab budget, we're going to have a good idea going in. I tell them like our inspection is just to confirm that and tell us where we're going to spend the money. We're not going to do a lot of retrading. Now you may find something, and I've found like, we may find something that we asked for. We bought a property and we knew it was a huge value add, but they didn't have heat in the middle bedroom on all the units. So we asked for like, 25 grand and they gave us 20 or something like that. But I mean, this is a $2.8 million purchase price. So we're talking about less than 1% that we asked
Right.
for. But yeah, you do not want to be known. I wouldn't even call that like a big retrade by any means. Just, hey,
No.
could you just so and then we've asked on some, like on our last two, we asked for some and they said no. And we had hard money, so we kind of knew they'd say that. But it doesn't hurt to ask a little bit, if you say, hey, here's why, but it's they can say no and you don't, but we're not going to walk away. And the broker knew that. Hey, we think this might be fair if they give us this. So you can do a little bit, but yeah, you do not want to be known as somebody that because those people, Mike, where their strategy is just to get it locked up and then try to beat up the seller. You're going to get a really bad name among the brokers if you try to do that strategy.
I love that you brought that up because it's not that you're doing retrading. Retrading is fine because you're trying to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
The issue is when your leverage in retrading is that you can back out. So if you always exercise that leverage and be like, fine, we're out, and you continue to do that, you're making that broker look bad. You're went under contract.
Yeah.
And so they're just not going to look at your deals. I've actually, a big buyer, hedge fund buyer, did that to me once after buying like 12 units or 12 deals from me. And well, obviously I'm not going to mention their name, but I let them know they didn't have a reason. They just backed out right before their date. And I was like, you got to give me something or you'll never, ever get a deal from
Yeah,
me again. I told them
that's the
that. So,
worst. Yeah, sure. Yep.
yeah. So
I agree
good
with that.
stuff. Good stuff. So there's a lot of other questions here we'll dive into, but we'll run through them a little quicker here. Is there any
Okay.
software that makes your life easier?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mike, with apartment syndication, since we do bring on a lot of investors, we use an investor portal. So we've got a website. All of our investors have an account on that website. We upload our syndication documents, and we turn the one that the investors have to fill out in order to get into our investment. Then we turn that into an electronic document so they can fill it out online instead of having to print it out, fill it out, scan it in, send it to us,
Yeah.
which is what we did for our first syndication. So that makes our lives easier getting investors in. And then when we pay out our investors, we basically just enter a number into Invest Next is what it's called. I love it. Then they just send out all the money. And if people have their bank account set up, it goes directly to their bank account, ACH transfer, or it sends them a check. So if you're doing apartment syndication, you're bringing on, 20 investors per deal. You got to have an investor portal.
Yeah, Invest Next. That's good. Yeah, and there's a lot of them out there. That's a great one. I haven't looked into that one yet, but that definitely software like that. It also brings security, knowing that when they get the check, everything's automated. They can log in and see what's going on too with their deal. It's really powerful.
Yes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So what we talked a little bit about funding a deal, but is there a way, like right now, what's your favorite way? You're doing syndications, but I think a big question for people is like going to the bank. It's the credit score, it's the deal, it's the partners. What is your favorite way to get to fund a deal?
We like working with our local lenders. I'll tell you, Mike, what I would say that I've found so far. If you want to go get a loan with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, what they call agency debt, right? Like a federal loan, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they care a lot about the deal, but what they really care about, Mike, is your liquidity and your net worth. And they don't so much care about, they do care about your experience a little bit with their product. Like, hey, have you gotten an agency loan before? But it's like, they want to know how much money you have, Mike, and what's your net worth. So like, if this goes south, can we take enough money? And it's non-recourse, so it's not quite like that, but they just want to know if you can fund it. But they don't really care who you are. They don't care like if you're local, if you've operated in that market.
Yeah.
But you've got to have a certain net worth. So when we did do a loan with Freddie Mac, we had to bring on a balance sheet partner because our net worth wasn't there. Local credit unions, local banks are kind of the opposite. They don't care so much about your net worth and liquidity. They like to know that you're local. I mean, the bank that we've worked with the most here in Cincinnati, GE Credit Union, they will not do deals with people out of state. They want you to be local. They want to know that you're here operating the deal, but they don't care so much about your net worth and liquidity. So that's been my favorite way because that is what we have. We're right here. We are all in. We're very hands-on. We're going to make this make sense, but we're not super wealthy yet. And they've given us great loans.
And I've heard that a couple of times that local banks a lot of times will give you better, and not just those relationships too,
Yeah.
And when I was in the legal world, we couldn't give kickbacks to like court people or people that would actually bring us business, right? But in the real estate world, like all bets are off. I mean, except for as a real estate agent. But like for those bank folks, I'm sure you can send them a Christmas package, and stuff like that.
But they want these loans. I mean, they've taken me to lunch and asked me, how can I find more people like you? Because I want to do more of these loans. They want to provide debt on multifamily because it's a great investment.
I think that mindset shift that they actually want it and they need you and they will take you to that mindset shift of knowing that, like, well, how do I get there? So one question that popped in my mind when you were saying you brought on a balance sheet partner, is this like it has to be an in-law kind of situation, or can you actually like how would you attract a balance sheet partner and how maybe would you compensate them?
Yeah, you definitely have to compensate them. Some people call that a key principal or a loan sponsor. And I would just find this through networking, Mike. You're probably going to, you go to meetups or you get on Bigger Pockets or whatever, you go to conferences, you're going to meet people who want to be involved in real estate, but don't want to be really active, but want to be on the general partner side, and they've got money. And that's where you and I want to be, Mike. I mean, if you've got a $10 million net worth and all you have to do is sign on a loan, especially a non-recourse loan, and you get 5 to 10% of the deal, that's a great spot to be in. And that's what it takes. You've got to find people that are interested in real estate and want to be a key principal, and you let them come in and deal, and you give them, 5 or even 10% of the deal, just for signing on the loan and lending you their balance sheet and their liquidity.
Yeah, think of it like what I like to think of it as like a business partner, and of course they're 10%, but
Yeah.
like think about an actual business, like I've been watching the show, the launch of Uber is such a cool, crazy experience. And like they're bringing on these angel investors, and these guys, they got their money in the deal. They have skin in the game.
Yeah.
They're like, so you could call them up and be like, hey, this is what's going on right now, this problem. I want to know if you ever dealt with it before. And you're not really paying them for that, but you think they're going to tell you, you think they're going to help you or connect you with somebody else that's going to help make that deal close.
Yep.
Definitely.
Like you said, they got skin in the game. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you said about your partner too. That was kind of like a mentor to you too. That was kind of the situation with that too, is you can call them and be like, what should we do on this?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So these questions, obviously they kind of lead into each other. So like, what are you looking for in a JV partner? So like, how do you know if this person's legit? I met him at a meetup. He says he's got deals. He's done deals. How do I really know or vet somebody to know that I'm getting into a partnership with somebody that's not going to screw me over?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mike. I mean, I would rather have worked with somebody in the past. I can't really speak to that too much. I don't go to the big conferences. I haven't done a coaching program. My business partner that works with me, we worked together before, and I trusted the guy. We're both people of faith. He's has a high integrity type guy, and he works hard, and so I knew that about him. So I trusted him. Now he didn't have a real estate experience, but I would go for that over the experience. Now, so hopefully it's somebody you've worked with. Now, the good thing is, Mike, it's you can just do it on one deal. So, you maybe buy a quad together or something. And if it doesn't go well, okay, like at least you only own a quad together. And hopefully it doesn't bring you down and you can sell it or whatever, and don't partner with them again. That's kind of the nice thing about real estate. It's not like, starting, an online Amazon business or something that once it gets running, it's, you got this big business and you're stuck, you just do one property together. So just partner on one property and try it out. But I think what you're looking for, Mike, is, again, to me, somebody with high integrity, that's going to do what they say they're going to do. Someone that works hard. Those things to me are the most important. But then after that, I would look with somebody that just has different interests. So I am very much interested and passionate about what I would call the front end of the business. And that's going out and finding our next deal, and then finding investors to partner with us on that deal. Once we buy the property and take it down, I'm not interested anymore. So Kevin handles all the properties that we already own, and he manages our property managers, and he makes sure our portfolio is performing well. So it was good. And I knew that when I partnered with him, that he would be more interested in that type of thing, and I'm more interested in this. So that's the most important thing, that you find somebody that has different interests, different strengths.
Yeah, man, so much gold there. Finding like people that complement, your strengths. So like somebody's better at something. Like I always thought I was an extrovert until like one day I'm like getting onto the numbers and geeking out on this stuff. And like people are going to parties and I'm like, nah. And this girl I was dating, she's like, I think you're actually an introvert. And I was like, nah, I'm an extrovert. I was like, and I do have a show and stuff, but like, I think I've trained myself to be an extrovert because they got paid more sales jobs. They just got paid more money than all my friends. And so that's so powerful. And so the integrity piece is big, doing what they say they're going to do, even in the lowest, things, tasks and things that, you ask them to do stuff. And recently I've really learned that even great people sometimes aren't going to make good partners because, like you said, your interests are not aligned. Like, separate from the task that each of you are going to do, your interest still needs to be that this deal is going to work out, that we're going to make money in whatever it is you're going to do. So
yes. Yep. Good point.
Very powerful. So kind of the last like tactical thing here, but it's super important, right? When you go into like apartments and multifamily deals, you're not always boots on the ground. And how could you be if you get thousands of units? So we face the problem of property management. Do you guys manage your own stuff or do you outsource?
No, outsource. Yeah. To be honest with you, Mike, I'm not interested in managing properties and being a landlord. Never have been, and just knew not interested in it, not passionate about it. And I don't think I'd be skilled at it. So we have always, again, from that first 16 unit, we've always used third-party management. I think I always will. Maybe someday we bring it in house and I let somebody else run that because it's just not my interest or strength. But yeah, we use third party management and been very happy to do that. But we're very hands on with them and we manage them pretty tightly.
Right. So one of the things that I like to learn about with people is like the different way do you handle them. Do they all have their own softwares they use, or do you have them integrate with something you're using?
No, they all have their own. So, for us, it's a matter of getting the monthly report from them and they all have, reporting. And the one that we're buying now is going to be a different software, but I'm sure, we'll get used to that. And it's going to be very similar, but for us, it's a matter of using their software to pull out the numbers that we need for our own reporting and our own records. And that's really all it is. But, honestly, Mike, the way we manage them, the biggest thing is just staying occupied, low vacancy. So it's really just them reporting on that. And then us talking through, well, okay, vacancy is too high. What are we doing to get that down? And then, that we need to see the financials, obviously. And so that report might look a little bit different, but we have our own kind of spreadsheets that we keep as far as being asset managers. And so we just need their report to allow us to easily take the numbers from their report and put it into ours.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, and I know a lot of investors that will have all their property managers use their software, but I'm very involved in the property manager community, and none of them want to do that. So now
I haven't heard of that.
So now you're the one guy that they have to put all the extra details in, or use some kind of integration like Zapier or something. But
sure,
yeah, very cool, very cool. So kind of transitioning here as we close up here. What is the greatest advice you've ever received?
I think, for me, Mike, one thing I'd like to say, again, I'm a Christian and the book of Ecclesiastes has been really powerful to me. It is written by King Solomon, a long time ago, wealthiest guy in the world, king of Israel at the time. And, gets kind of the end of his life and he has everything and he's always, he's had everything, accomplished everything. And he's like, man, all this is for nothing. And I believe that I believe in an afterlife, and that there are more important things than building a kingdom here on earth. So I just think that's important. And whether or not you believe all that, and whether or not you're a Christ follower, I do think people generally find out that their work and kind of whatever empire they're kind of building here on earth isn't as important as they maybe think it is while they're in it. And you're going to find out and you realize there's just more important things for me, my faith and the afterlife and things like that are so much more important. But for people, it's usually family, friends, things like that. So I think that's important to keep in mind, Mike. And what I would say, even again, people that aren't religious, they'll typically find out that they may build a business that doesn't give them the life they want. And so it's like, man, I built the wrong business. So I think it's important to know those things and think about that early on. And so that was the advice, I received from some, Christian mentors and the book of Ecclesiastes talk a lot about that, but make sure you're building the business that you want for your life. Cause you may build a real successful business and then your life sucks and you've lost the people that mean the most to you because you're so all in on building this business and it didn't support the life that you wanted. And you're going to be very unhappy with that.
That's so good. Yeah. The first business I built, it did really well. I mean, I was a process server serving divorce papers and evictions and stuff, and $99 a pop, which was unheard of. And I would serve 40 a day. Right.
Wow.
And all day, every day I had a bucket, and it was crazy. I was in the car. I actually gained 150 pounds in 3 years and just driving my new Prius, rocking out all day, serving people. And I thought I was living the life, making more money than I could handle. And then at one point I just was like, why am I driving all day? You just get tired of it. It took me a couple of years to get tired of it, but you're absolutely right. Like you just go into whatever's going to move you to the next level so you can pay the rent.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you can pay for the vacation all of a sudden. And then all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, I'm trapped.
Sure. Yep.
And that's assuming you started a business versus just being in a job. Like if you became a doctor, a specialist, and all of a sudden that specialization is not needed anymore, or just not really in demand, and you've spent half your life doing. I love it. Great stuff. Be intentional about the business.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Think ahead about it.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So, okay. So now to real estate specifically, if somebody's trying to get started tomorrow, what would be your advice to them? What should they do first?
Mike, listen to podcasts like this, start reading books, start educating yourself, but start networking. Go find people that are doing what you want to do. try to learn from them. You said, well, Mike, sound like one thing you're doing is underwriting. Find out maybe something you can do for those people. A lot of times they might say like, go find a deal. Okay. So learn how to underwrite and learn how to find a deal. But just start networking with people that might be your partners, network with people that are doing what you want to do and find out how they're doing it and how they got started. But it's helpful to know people and know people in your market. So get to the networking events in your local area.
I love that. Yeah. And solving problems for people that, that make what you want to make, that have been where you want to be, that have what you want to have, like solve problems for those people. And you will start to see yourself, not just that, but like also just that's your community now. If you're helping those people, that's your community. And people, when you're in a community with other like-minded folks that are successful, they want you to be successful, right? Like I don't want to get on my yacht and go to, Cabo and invite the guy that can't afford to pay his rent. Like, right?
Yeah.
When we get to the hotel, he's not going to be able to afford the hotel or dinner, right? So they're going to want to lift you up if you're providing value to them and trying to help them. And so powerful. So kind of one of the last questions we have here, and this is one of my favorites of the show, is what would you do if you had accomplished all of your financial goals today and the other small goals that we all want to accomplish, right? And money was just no object. What would you do to make the biggest impact on the world?
Yeah, great question, Mike. I love that. My heart is really for kids that don't have, parents, don't have, good role models, don't have support, don't get the love that every kid needs. So I would serve in that capacity. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I love people that foster kids and adopt kids. So those type of ministries, it would be the ones I would want to donate the most to with time and money. And maybe do some of that ourselves if we were set up to where we could participate in that and help give kids again the stability and the love that they need and deserve. That would be where I would put my time and energy if I could.
I love that. I love any opportunity that you can take your skills for earning and then apply them into a way that's actually going to benefit the world. That's why I started the show. It's why I started real estate investing. Like, we all want to help somebody and it feels good. There's no greater feeling than helping somebody and then them appreciating you. And some people, the Freuds of the world would say, it's selfish, and that's okay. I'm selfish then. Like when I feel good about helping somebody else, if that's selfish, like I'm good with that.
Yep.
So much good there. I appreciate that. And definitely, a lot of, as you guys see the show, it's going to transition, a lot of the things we're going to do, I'm creating a fund. It's called mightymeetup.org. And we have events all over the nation that we're planning on doing. We're having one in September, depending on when the show airs, and maybe it's already passed, but these meetups and all of the proceeds are going to go to a charity. Still haven't decided what charity I want to do, but I think that would be cool.
That's awesome. Love that, Mike.
Yeah, good stuff. So this interview, you just like crushed it, like brought it home with so much value. I'm excited to rewatch it, edit it, post it all over the internet and share it with the world. But how can we keep up with you and connect with you?
Yeah, sure, Mike. Go to my website. That's the best spot. threefoldrei.com. There on the screen. We've got some good material there, good education material. You can connect with us there. We've got a free ebook called 5 Steps to Passive Income for the Full-Time Dad. It's for moms too, but my partner and I are both dads. And so we're really passionate about teaching other dads how maybe they can put their money to work for them, specifically, partnering on apartment investments. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. Mike, try to put out some good education material there. So you can look for me, just Lee Yoder. You'll find me at LinkedIn as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I want to personally thank you for being on the show, Lee. I've been impressed with your story. Your show is great as well. I'm excited to share it with the world.
Thanks, Mike. It's been a pleasure being on.
All right, you guys, until next time, my mighty investors, go out and check out the website we got there on the screen. And we're also going to put it in the show notes if you're listening on audio. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Mighty Real Estate Investor on your favorite audio platform. Honestly, you guys, we've heard this everywhere in the real estate investment world. It almost gets old. It's like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So go out there, flex those networking muscles, okay, and build a mighty network so you guys can build a mighty net worth. and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks so much, you guys. Take care. If you want more of the tips, tools, and tactics to take your real estate investing to the next level, go get a free copy of my latest book at mightyfreebook.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite audio platform.